I'm Monty. This is the Marriage Bites podcast.
We get real about the joys and challenges of marriage through bites of wisdom we have learned over the years.
Our aim is to share this wisdom with you so your marriage won't bite.
Welcome to the Marriage Bites podcast, everybody. We are so happy you're here.
Yes, we are happy that you are here. So, what have you been up to?
I have been up to getting ready for my harp trio performances that are happening in early December. I've been working on my ward choir director calling, which has been super fun. I've been reading a lot of books. That's not true. I've been reading a little bit of books and thinking about reading a bunch of books.
I've been going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have been going to work. It's been pretty dang exciting.
Yes, it has.
Actually, I saw something funny this morning, if I can share with everybody. But let me back up a little bit here. Years ago, we bought a Ford Escort. It was a 2002 Ford Escort. And it was white in color, and we ended up naming it affectionately Whitey Tidy. So, Whitey Tidy, a few years back, got into a crash. Another driver actually sideswiped our oldest son while he was driving and crushed the passenger side of the car.
Mm-hmm.
So the car ended up getting totaled, but we were able to buy it back with a salvage title. And we drove it for a number of years more. And the whole time, this car, we just kept building up its legend and its sass and what it was. I mean, we'd talk about it being a race car and how we drive it like we stole it. It's just a fantastic little car. So it became somewhat of a legend. Even people at work know about Whitey Tidy. Well, sadly, earlier this year we had to get rid of Whitey Tidy because we didn't have a kid to drive it, and Whitey Tidy was on its last leg. There was a lot of problems.
I was sad to see that car go, but yeah, it just wasn't going to run anymore.
So we were just funning around this morning, looking at cars because we're going to need another kid car here, probably in the next 6 months to a year. And I found a 2002 Ford Escort for sale. A white in color, looked just like Whitey Tidy without the damage. And the picture that the person put on the listing was the Escort was in the middle of a jump.
It was in the air.
It was in the air. And I'm like, oh, that's Whitey Tidy. It was so funny because we had built this car up to be something magical and tough and fast. The thing was a piece of junk.
Totally.
It had no power. It cornered terribly. I mean, it was just a junker. But this picture was funny because there's Whitey Tidy jumping. All that sass and all that stuff we'd built up, somebody had put into a picture and was selling this car. I'm like, oh my word, it's only $900.
Yeah, I'm half tempted to buy that.
What was funny is Whitey Tidy, before we got rid of it, was having some mechanical problems. And actually was having a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely would not pass emissions. But this other car that I had seen in the ad, the guy or the gal, whoever listed it, put a whole bunch of things that it had problems with, just like Whitey Tidy. It was just hilarious. I had a good laugh over it.
Oh, yeah, that's so funny. I mean, that car is older than most of our kids. So it's
is.
Been with us for a long time.
It is.
We've had it longer than we've had most of our kids.
Yeah.
So
it was a fabulous car. I think we owned it for 18 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like 2 kids were in car seats when we bought that.
They were. Our 2 oldest were in car seats. I remember we went on a day trip to a fort in Washington State, and we took that car, and both of them were little.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. We tried to drive up to Mount Adams and got stopped by the tribe up there. I guess it's sacred to them, and we weren't able to go see the mountain up close.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a bummer. But anyway, Whitey Tidy, may it live on in our memories forever. So I know this has nothing to do with our episode today, really, but if you guys have a car like that, let us know.
Totally. We
love those stories.
We want to hear all of your experiences and stories with your favorite cars.
Specifically, if you ever built them up into legendary status.
Mm-hmm. We had a car growing up that had holes in the floor. That's the kind of car I drove growing up.
I've heard stories about that whole car.
I remember looking through the hole and watching the ground go by as we were driving when I was little.
Don't let your foot go through the
hole.
hole.
Can you imagine that? That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to be careful.
Yeah. I think what was so neat about the car is that people at work latched onto it. And even today, they ask every now and then about Whitey Tidy. If I still own it and we're still driving it. And I've had to sadly tell them that we had to finally get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, good times. Good times. So, today, what are we talking about today?
Well, we thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a lighter episode since we've been doing some heavier topics. And we thought it might be fun to talk about some of our favorite things.
So we have a short list of a few things that you can talk to your spouse about, or maybe there's other things that you can talk to your spouse about and tell them what your favorite things are. Shall we begin?
Yes. What is your favorite restaurant?
I have a really hard time having a favorite food or a favorite restaurant because I like so much.
Oh, that's true.
I think right now I was talking with a colleague at work the other day about favorite restaurants in the town we live in. I'll go with that. I like Olive Garden. I know some people hate it and some people are like, it's not Italian enough. Yeah, I get that. We're in America. Our Mexican food isn't Mexican either. I mean, let's be honest with this,
Right.
with ourselves, right?
Right.
Our Italian food is really not like Italian food, you know?
But I think the food there is good.
Anyway, I like Olive Garden a lot. There's this little Chinese hole in the wall that I really like. I really like it. When we go there, there's no one there. Hardly ever. But what I love about it is that I can actually hear you talk. We don't have a lot of people being loud. There's not crazy music playing in the background like some places. Like, I enjoy going to Texas Roadhouse, but there's such a crowd there all the time. And they always have music and sports and things going on. It's just chaotic.
It's loud. You can hardly even talk to each other the whole time.
I do like that onion blossom thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's delicious. I would say another place, it's a little Mexican restaurant. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. But I remember one time we went in there and they give you chips and salsa to start out, you know.
Right.
Like a lot of Mexican restaurants are. So the Hispanic lady, she brought us our chips and salsa and put it on the table. You know, it's really good stuff. And I asked her if the salsa was hot. She's like, yeah, it's hot salsa, whatever. I said, do you have any mild salsa? And it was so funny. She looked at me with this look of contempt, like, you are a gutless gringo. Can't handle the hot stuff. I was just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that was funny.
So she looked at me with contempt, like, yeah, like, you're a wimp. It was so funny. She did bring me the mild salsa. She kind of walked by and just threw it on the table type of thing. Like, here you go, weakling. So those are my favorite restaurants in the area. How about yours?
There's a little Italian place that I really like. It's not a chain restaurant. I don't remember the name of it either, but I know where it is so I can find it if I need to. I sort of like everything too. I don't necessarily have a super favorite. Maybe it's more about what I'm feeling like eating that day. But if I had a favorite food, it would... Well, first of all, if chocolate is a food, then I think that might be my favorite food. But if chocolate is a candy, then I think maybe my favorite food is ice cream.
You can mix them and call it a casserole.
Well, chocolate ice cream. Like, you can't go wrong with that. Yeah. Or ice cream with chocolate stuff in it. I mean...
I like vanilla ice cream with chocolate chip cookie dough.
I think that is really good.
Dynamite.
Do you have a favorite book?
I do. It's going to probably show my level of maturity and my level of intellect. I really like Calvin and Hobbes. It is hilarious.
Calvin and Hobbes is very funny.
What's your favorite book?
Well, in order to choose a favorite book, I have to divide it into like different categories of books because I really could not pick one favorite book.
Would you say you're kind of a book nerd?
No, I would say I'm a book nerd wannabe. Like, if I had no kids and no responsibilities, maybe I would be one. But I have a lot of other things going on. So I consider myself a person who reads a lot. But if you actually watched me, I would not read that often. I have a whole stack of books that I'm like, ooh, I want to read that one next. Ooh, I want to read that one next. But one of my very favorite self-improvement books is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Mouthful there.
It is not a very large book. It wouldn't take you very long to read it, but it is amazing. And it changed so much about the way I think about myself and the way I think about other people. Just gave me a whole new perspective on how to look at life. I don't read a lot of fiction. I would say the most recent fiction I read, besides board books like Little Blue Truck, would be the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. I was reading it out loud to my younger kids. Well, I think we got through like halfway through book 4, and then they went back to school after lockdown. Because Keeper of the Lost Cities is a series that we got into during lockdown in 2020. So we were home all the time. I had time to sit down and read to the kids because we weren't going anywhere. And then sort of we went back to school and regular life. When you're reading and you don't read for a week or two, you sort of lose track of the characters and what's going on. And that's sort of what happened. And they kind of lost interest. They were a little bit younger for where we were at in the book. One of our older kids read the whole thing on his own and really, really enjoyed it too. So right now I'm sort of maybe listening more to podcasts than reading also. So
I'm waiting for a lot of books to come out on video.
Which just happened from time to time.
I did forget. I do like Calvin and Hobbes, but I actually like reading ballistic tables and reloading manuals, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. If you look at his bookshelf, it's full of reloading manuals,
technical manuals,
tech stuff, and ballistic tables, and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of funny.
It's probably boring for most.
Yeah, if anything else is there, it's probably mine that's on his side because my bookshelf is too full to fit the rest of my stuff.
So, what is your favorite movie or movie genre?
Well, kind of hard to pick a favorite movie, but I think my favorite type of movie is drama. I like movies that have a lot of meaning.
So, like Lawrence of Arabia?
I don't know. I think I never watched it all the way through. It was too boring. I fell asleep. Sorry if you love Lawrence of Arabia.
All you history buffs, especially World War I history buffs, it actually has some historical events in it that are kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm,
so
right. If you're really into history, it's going to be your kind of movie. Growing up, one of my favorite movies was The Princess Bride.
Good movie.
I also love comedies as well. Sometimes I'm just in the mood for a good laugh and nothing more. Movies like Elf. Elf is such a funny show.
It's a fantastic movie. I think for me, I like watching movies that have real deep meaning to them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not super deep, but I just watched the movie Oblivion. That is a Tom Cruise movie. It was on, I guess it was made in 2013, but it finally made it to Netflix. I watched it the other day, and I thought, this movie is fantastic. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got amazing effects. I really enjoyed it. So I'm a little bit of a history nerd. I really enjoy studying war history from back in ancient times all the way up to modern times. But I like watching the movies that don't glorify the fighting and the death like some movies do. I like to watch movies that are as close to the real thing as possible, not only to see and experience in some tiny part about what those people went through, but to watch those and gain some understanding. Mm-hmm. I recently watched a movie. It was made by some Australian movie company. It was about the Battle of Gallipoli, and I believe that was 1915 when that battle occurred. And just the sheer waste of it. Showed the side of the Australians, but it also showed the side of the Turks, and how the two sides, the people fighting, were pretty much the same people. They were these young men who were thrust into this life or death battle, and how it was such a waste. I've enjoyed the movie series on HBO, Band of Brothers and the Pacific, and seeing what those characters went through. I know there's some books associated with those movies as well. But I love those historical dramas. Sometimes they call them action movies, but I really like to understand what they went through. Mm-hmm. I also enjoy good doomsday movies. I actually like War of the Worlds, the new one, another Tom Cruise movie. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, but he happens to be in two movies I like. I actually like the new Maverick movie too, with Tom Cruise.
Maybe you're more of a Tom Cruise fan than you're willing to admit.
Man, he's so hot right now.
Yeah. You have a man crush?
Maybe. He's been in movies most of my life.
He's too old for you.
He's also too short for me too. I think he's 5'2". So I like movies that have meaning to them. Mm-hmm. I don't really get into the ones where it's just, movies for blood and guts sake.
Yeah.
You
violence just for the sake of violence and explosions.
Right.
I'm not really into that.
Though some of these war movies I watch are extremely violent, but it's not violence for violence sake. I think the creators of them are trying to have you experience the the battle or experience what they experienced.
Yeah.
So what about TV shows? We talked about movies. What's one of your favorite TV shows?
Well, my all-time favorite TV show is called The Midwife. I love that show so much. And I also really like The Great British Baking Show. It's just so fun. I love how the people, not characters, whatever. I love how the people are so supportive of each other, and they make some of their food looks really good. Some of it, I'm not sure I would eat that. But like it looks really good, and they're just taking everyday people and they're nice to each other, and it's not like all dramatic, and
it's not like an American reality show where they're all competing, they're cutthroat about everything.
Yeah, I like how friendly they are, and the hosts are funny, and
I like it as well, but I'm a little bit worried it's going to give me diabetes.
I don't know, maybe.
I watch the show and I get that sugary taste in my mouth. I'm like, man. It's like I'm eating a whole cake after watching that show.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to try making after watching that show, but I'm like, ooh, I probably wouldn't turn out that good, and then I never do. I never try it.
Yeah.
But
so for me, a TV series, it's probably no secret, and I'm not supposed to talk about it on the podcast anymore.
I will grant you permission for this one time.
I enjoy Star Trek. There's something about Star Trek, especially from the beginning, it shows that humanity has risen above its petty stupidity that we are going through now. Mm-hmm. And I like that idea that mankind will improve despite all of our troubles and all of our biases and all of our hates, that we will rise above that and become something greater. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of it, I really think that's what he was trying to portray. It's interesting that he was a police officer at one time and probably saw a lot of bad things. And then he got into making Star Trek, the original series. I can't confirm it, but I wonder if he had seen so much bad. He wanted to see a different future for mankind. And I love all of the things that we can learn. A lot of embedded things in Star Trek that deal with a lot of social problems today. And I really enjoy that.
I actually really like Star Trek too. One thing I really like is that you have the different series and the different things, but they all tie into each other. They'll reference things from a different movie or from a different series, and it kind of makes it feel more real. Yeah,
I like that too.
And I also love how they're able to find a way in a more neutral space to really think about humanity, really think about different aspects of ourselves. I kind of see in the different alien species different elements of myself, like the logic part, and then the protectors, and then you have the mind readers, or the telepathy people, and then you have
Deanna Troi.
Well, yes, but she has a whole species,
Betazoid.
Not just her. Yes, but I can sort of see elements of humanity in each of the people, and it's there because they're using a different species, because they're using it in this other way. You can think about it in a way that doesn't feel too personal, to be able to really think about what it is they're trying to say.
Right. I mean, from the Klingons to the Romulans, they all take part of humanity and they explore it through them. It's really fascinating. Tell everyone about what's your favorite hobby.
Well, my favorite hobby is playing the harp. I also make quilts. As a mother of 6 kids, sometimes finding time for hobbies is somewhat limited. But those, I think, are the 2 main ones that I've developed over the course of the last couple decades or so. What about you? Tell us your favorite hobby.
Well, my hobby, I really enjoy firearms and all aspects of it. From building to shooting to collecting. I don't have a very good collection. Making ammunition. I've made my own black powder. I've made my own bullets, casting my own lead bullets. Just the whole thing. I've done short range shooting, handgun, shotgun, long range rifle. I just love it. And for me, it started when I was young, when we had only 3 channels on the TV and we didn't even have a VCR. And so we would rent from time to time. My dad would go to the hardware store in town, rent a VCR and a few movies. Well, he would sometimes rent these Disney Davy Crockett movies. They were fantastic. Davy Crockett was always the hero. He was fighting a bear or dealing with river pirates, and he had a flintlock rifle, and I was just enamored with flintlock rifles, and I still am, which is funny. I don't own a flintlock at the moment, but I really think flintlock rifles are neat. I just love them, the way they go off, the way they sound, the way you load them and use them. So I've been studying firearms and ballistics since I was about 5. Really, since I was about 5. I built a few muzzleloader weapons in high school, and some of them probably shouldn't have been shot, but I shot them anyway. I might have gotten burned a few times by gunpowder, but yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So why is sharing these things with your spouse so important?
Well, I can think of several reasons. One is that sharing your favorite things creates more connection. It lays a groundwork for intimacy, getting to know each other. You get to know the whole person, not just the parts that you like or the parts that you see or the parts that you have in common. Sometimes when two people start dating or when they get to know each other, they'll say something like, we just have so much in common. And I think that's great. It's really good to have a certain set of things that are in common. But actually, it's what makes you different. That's what makes you interesting to each other. And so it helps keep things interesting and having a way for the two of you to connect over these favorite things or favorite hobbies, books, movies, all of that.
So I think after you've been married, though, for 20 years, you pretty much know all of those basic things we just talked about. You know those things about your spouse. So I think it's important that you continue to reveal yourself to your spouse, maybe about those deeper things. You know, your dreams in life may change. And to share those with your spouse, your likes and dislikes may change. And I think sometimes the longer you're married, sometimes you become fearful and sharing too much about yourself with your spouse. I know a lot of people do. But it's important to do that, to enrich that marriage, that relationship. I know the things we talked about, like I said, are pretty surface level things to talk about. But we'd hope that you would share those things, but also go deeper.
Yeah. Like
we just talked about why I like Star Trek. You know I like Star Trek because I watch it all the time, but maybe explaining why, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it's really good to ask something like, what is it that you like about that? Rather than just saying, what's your favorite food or what's your favorite book? Asking a deeper question like, what is it that you like about it? What draws you to that? That will get into the more deeper things. And sometimes they will have experiences with that they never shared with you before. Maybe like we've been married 20 years or so, and there's still sometimes that we'll tell a story of something that happened. And I'm like, I've never heard that story before. So there's still things about our previous life that we've never told each other just because we forgot or didn't think about it. Not that we were like hiding those things, but like, oh, I just never thought to tell you about that.
Right. There was something you told me just maybe a month ago that I had no idea about you growing up, and it was pretty big. But
I remember that, but I don't remember what the subject was either.
I don't remember.
But I remember you saying, oh, I never heard that before.
Yeah.
And we've been married all this time and still haven't.
Like, how did you not know?
How did we not?
But I think, too, here's another example is I really actually like music, and I like the emotion of music. Mm-hmm. I learn of new pieces of music every now and then, and each one brings up feelings and thoughts, and continually sharing those kind of things with your spouse are really important, because you might know that I like music, but if that's all you know, you don't know the depth of why I like a certain piece of music and why. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to share that to continue that growth together, that intimacy.
Yeah, I think knowing each other's hobbies or favorite things and participating in them together can help you to understand each other better. Knowing why you like firearms, knowing why you like to watch war movies helps me understand the way you tick.
I think it just helps you understand who you're with.
Well, and it helps us to be involved in each other's lives.
Right.
Not just be two people who talk about finances once in a while.
Right. I know one thing between us, I know you enjoy music and I know you enjoy the harp.
Yeah.
I think you playing the harp is the coolest thing in the world, and I have since the very beginning. But it's not my thing. And I know for myself, one way that I get involved with your hobby or what you like to do with the harp is that I've attended performances by you. I help you move the harp. I've even went to, I forget what it was called. It was some sort of conference or something that took all day because that was important to you. And it helped me understand where you're coming from and your commitment to it.
Yeah.
Even though it's not my thing, I still was able to participate in it in some small way. So I understand where you're coming from.
And on my side, like, my dad owned a few hunting rifles when I was growing up, and I think he owned a shotgun or two. But I really never shot them. I didn't really know anything about them, except guns are dangerous. There was this cabinet, which was a built-in, so it was in my bedroom. So I saw them there, but they were locked up, and it was fine. And I was just sort of told, don't touch them, they're dangerous. And that was sort of the extent of my, firearms training growing up. So when we met, I didn't really know anything about guns, but I knew that you loved them. And by learning about them and talking with you about it, I've learned about you. It has opened me up to having new experiences. Shooting guns or knowing much about them wasn't something I experienced as a child, but meeting you, it was a new thing. It was something I'd never learned about before, so I learned something new. Sometimes when we learn about each other's hobbies, it opens up our own personal life experience.
I think it helps us relate to each other as well.
Yeah.
There's been times when I have a quandary about certain firearm purchases, and I can come to you and talk to you about it, and you have some basic understanding and can actually give me helpful input.
You know what? I like that sometimes I'll be in here practicing and you'll just come in here and sit to listen to me play.
I know.
I appreciate that.
I like listening.
It shows that you actually care about something that I care about. Yeah. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think spouses appreciate when the other spouse is like, it wasn't originally my thing, but I like it and I want to support you in it. I want to come in and listen to you play. I'm not super good at it, maybe, but I do appreciate that you like to come and listen to me sometimes.
Right. It's important to support your spouse.
Yeah, I feel really supported when you do that, not just like, oh.
But it's more than that. I mean, I enjoy it. A funny thing, though, I remember this from when we just barely started dating, or maybe we had decided to get married. I remember telling you, kind of in an ultimatum fashion, I said something defective. Look, I like guns. I like to own them. I like to shoot them. I like them to be around. It's what I do. If you aren't on board with that, this isn't going to work.
I remember that conversation.
Thankfully enough, you were okay with it.
Yeah. That must have been hard for you to say at that point.
It actually wasn't.
Wasn't it?
It wasn't, because I had made up in my mind many years earlier that if the person I'm going to marry can't handle it, then I am done. This is an integral part of who I am. And if they can't stomach that, then they are not for me and we are not compatible.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I knew it was something I needed to discuss with you. And yeah, I had no fear, and I was ready to walk away if you said, yeah, I don't want those in my home, because it's who I am. And to be true to myself, I could not give that up for anyone.
Yeah.
So
sometimes you can turn your favorite things into dates.
You absolutely can.
We've done that actually kind of a lot. We've gone on dates where we go target shooting. We've gone on dates where we go to a music concert, or where you come to maybe a concert that I'm performing in. Or we'll go to a movie that we both enjoy, or that one of us is really excited to see. Maybe the other isn't as enthused about it, but we go together so we can turn like some of our favorite things into a date night.
That's right. Brings up the memory of when we were in college and we went to see The Pirates of Penzance. And if you haven't seen it before, the movie or the play, it's well worth the watch. I remember you wanted to go to this, and I'd heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was going to be stupid, but I was like, well, I like this girl. I should probably go. And so I think you even got the tickets. It was an on-campus performance. And so we went to it. And it was fantastic.
It was so funny.
It's like you grew up with watching The Princess Bride, and I did too. Now our kids are growing up knowing about the Pirates of Penzance.
We quote it all the time.
All the time. It is hilarious.
It is so funny.
It's so silly and zany. So you may go do something that your spouse likes and then realize that this is fantastic. This is great. And it may become your thing as well. And I think that movie for us has become a thing for us, which is really neat.
Well, and also sometimes if your spouse really likes something and you participate in it with them and then you decide, I really, really don't ever want to do that again, that's also good information to have.
It is good. But you need to share that with your spouse. And why?
Yeah, and it's okay. Sometimes you'll have, for example, one spouse who loves to travel and another who really, really does not like to travel. Sometimes the spouse that doesn't like to travel will travel with their spouse anyway. And sometimes the traveler will find other people to travel with. And that's totally okay too. They'll find another person to share their passion with. Sometimes they'll go with just a best friend instead. And that's perfectly okay too. You don't have to share all of the hobbies. You don't have to share everything and want to do everything that your spouse wants to do every time.
I think it'd be sweet if you went on a pig hunt with me in Texas.
Be honest, I don't have any interest in going pig hunting in Texas.
What if we were in a helicopter?
I think I would be afraid of heights. I don't think I would like to be in a helicopter.
Dang it. You got a harness on you holding you in?
I don't know if I would like that. I might be surprised and end up liking that. That might be one of the things I'm like, no, you take a friend and you go do that. I'm going to stay here and play my harp.
What if you took your little harp and played it while I'm shooting the pigs?
I mean, nobody would be able to hear it. It'd be too loud.
No one could hear it, yeah.
No one would know if I made a mistake because you can't even hear it.
Oh, man. That's funny.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I haven't enjoyed all of the things that we've done together, but I think it means a lot to your spouse when they're at least willing to give it a try.
Right.
I don't love all the movies you love. Sometimes you take one of the kids to a movie that I'm not that interested in seeing, which is also a good way for you to spend time with our older kids.
Right.
But I do think that when you have been willing to give it a try, even if you didn't love it, I still appreciate that you tried it and wanted to participate. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else we have on the docket for today?
Well, that's all I have. That's all we have for you today.
Hopefully y'all got something out of this. But I do want to say I appreciate everybody who's been listening to the podcast. I know we're small, but please tell your friends.
Yeah, we really do appreciate people. Sometimes a friend or somebody will say, oh yeah, I heard that episode, and we notice and we appreciate it.
Yep. So
it is not easy putting your whole life out for who knows who to hear.
It's not. So the 5 of you out there listening, thanks.
All right, well, until next time.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Marriage Bites podcast.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the fun.
Let us know what you took away from this episode by sending us an email at info@andelinprice.com.
You can also see what we're up to on Facebook and Instagram at Andelin Price Coaching. Or you can visit my website, andelinprice.com, to learn more. See you next week.
Bye. This is a test. It is only a test of the emergency broadcast system.
The Marriage Bites broadcast system.
Remember how we had like 3 channels on the TV?
I know, yeah. Our kids would be so appalled if they knew what it was like for us when we were kids.
I know.
And it helps us to... What is that I'm trying to say? I lost my train of thought.
That's the word I'm looking for.
What am I trying to say?
Understanding.
Let me think about this.
With the magic of trick photography, we could edit that out.
Yes, we can.
Is zany an okay word to use on air? It's not an FCC violation, is it?
It is a 4-letter word.
Sorry, FCC.
But if all 4-letter words are not allowed, then we can't say the word for, so...
What? Oh, can't say what. Perhaps we should stop saying all 4-letter words during the podcast.
I think our podcast would be about 30 seconds long if we did that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird.